My operators with the Norman blowers were constantly going back to clean windrows. Constantly. Okay, we're live and rolling here. I'm just at the Jim MacKenzie house right now here, right outside of Stittsville, about 12 minutes away from the shop. And I'm sitting with the man here who invented the Pronovost Cyclone and also grew his business all the way from 0 to 7,500 laneways with a total of, 80 machines, Jim?
Yeah, we're running just a little over 80 now.
It's incredible. So let's start off with hearing the journey. Like, let's talk about how you got started and how you got in the business. And let's bring it back, 43 years.
43 years, okay. Well, it started off with, a 52 and a 53... two military ambulances that we cut into pickup trucks and hooked up plows onto. And I guess that was the first introduction to mini fabrication and modifications, which we began. That's really, I guess, is in our DNA then. That's where we started, plowing driveways. Mark Pogue and I from Beto Unique, we called our company Down to Earth Landscaping at the time. And we cleaned in a massive territory all over the west end of Montreal, and as time went on, it was always like a war though with the pickup trucks. It was like go with snow, things would break, and anyways, we managed. We split the routes up after a year. Mark and I were too similar, and we decided that we just do our own thing. I stayed more on the renovation side in my summer activities, and Mark went on to concrete work, and we both did our snow removal and smaller territories. And I guess the next group of years we saw regroupment of territories, concentrating in smaller areas, better marketing plan, like putting your name on your pickets, for example, was a big help in condensing the routes. So the first probably 3-4 years after, I did a lot of trades with different snow companies, condensed our routes a little further, optimized our cleaning systems. We were still moving away from snow plows at that time, and like I was telling you, we actually turned some of those Fisher plows around as like a box scraper blade, and we had 2 trucks pulling snow out, one truck with one of the conventional blowers and putting it to the side, and we ran that system 1 year, but it was a little out of balance. If it was wet, heavy snow and you drove on it too much, you had trouble getting it off the street. So we went to the pull-type blowers, and I think in the pull-type blowers, the old Pronovost, the Inverse 92s was our choice. It worked pretty good. We were about 25% more productive than just the backup style blowers, and we gave a cleaner job as well. Of course, the problem with the snow in the streets was still there, so we ended up adapting back blades behind the blowers, and it's always kind of a sort of a patch versus a solution. So along the ways, I kind of wondered if it was possible to do a single-phase snowblower, get rid of that fan and the gearbox behind the box, and tried a single-phase blower about must have been 12 years ago. We built some prototypes, worked pretty good in light, fluffy snow. It was sort of inspired from what I saw from Reese Industries out there in the, I guess it'd be in Elmira area. And but it didn't work well. When you went into a wet, heavy plow end, it didn't have any throw power. So, I realized we got to get back to that 2-stage snowblower at least. And so that's where we tried different types of blowers out, and it made a difference. The business just became more profitable as you can clean more driveways in a shorter period of time. We reinvested it into better tractors, better equipment. The routes got tighter as we gave a good service, and it's pretty much where we just kept that thing going until here we are today.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take it back to Montreal, all the way like where it really began, where you really got into the business model in particular, stemming from the first couple of companies you started all the way to moving to Ottawa. Let's take it back a little bit to those times. I want to hear a little bit about the process of that and you finally deciding that, hey, you know what? I'm going to get the hell out of Montreal and move over to Ottawa.
Yeah, well, Montreal was pretty good to us. I mean, there was, it's our hometown, and we had 3 companies working specifically in each municipality. So we serviced Point Claire, Kirkland, and Pierrefonds. And each company was unique, and we had a manager for each company because they had different plowing schedules in each municipality. So that worked quite well. We ran a satellite yard for our Point Claire operation, keeping them closer to site. It didn't cause us too much logistic nightmares. You know, we had a good, strong foreman that would make sure the guys showed up and scheduled the men in and made sure the tractors started, which is always your challenge when you start splitting up your yard. You lose a little bit of control on the way you administer your business as such. But everything back then was done with CB radios, maps, routes. So it was a different business. I mean, Followsoft was pretty instrumental on helping people work as a team. Before Followsoft, I guess it was really a CB radio in a tractor, put everybody again more together and they could help each other out. So those were little
And then you were working off
increments.
spreadsheets, right, if I'm correct?
Yeah, everything was on Excel sheets.
Paper, clip, and pen in a tractor, right?
Yeah, but what's the difference between Montreal, paper, clip, and pen versus here? You could get 175 houses on one piece of paper on spaced lines. So we had, Antoine Faucon Street, over 100 houses on one street.
Wow.
You had maybe 12. If you had 20 streets on a route, that was a lousy route. Like
Wow.
90% of the homes in Montreal, by the time we left Montreal, were buying service. So it was very different. You didn't have to travel all over town per tractor, so your routes were very condensed. And the average route, when we were cleaning about 6,000 laneways, Montreal, our average was, I think we came out to like 160 odd, average per overall average. We had 25% of our drivers could clean over 200 driveways in 4 hours.
Wow.
And that was even with the not so great snowblowers, the old pull types.
The old pull types before the hybrids.
Hybrids brought us another 15% more productivity.
Mm-hmm.
In the wings, you're seeing it go, up to 30% more when you start opening up the wings.
So first business in Montreal, when was it started roughly, when you actually brought in the tractor with the pull type? Like when you were really following the business model, like what years are we talking here? Is this 80s,
The model
90s?
kind of evolved. So we went trucks from the beginning and plows, and then that combined system that really didn't work, and then we went full tractors after that. At the very beginning, so we're going back like easily 37, 38 years, we started using agricultural tractors. Pull type blowers didn't exist. We fooled around with a few different models, stuck with Pronovost. And and then I think for about 25 years, that's all we used was the Pronovost
P92, right?
P92s, yeah, and it was working good. And I was still always trying to eliminate that space between the garage, so that's kind of kept me sort of looking for something. And I was fixing rusted blowers. I was
Always
repairing
playing around.
cracks, which gave me a pretty good idea where the weak spots were and how when I do a repair and if it lasted well, that was a good sign. And we sort of learned how to structure our blowers a little bit more heavy built, and that's what the Cyclone blower was all about.
100%. When did the P92 drop? The very first pull type that was
When
like...
did it first come out?
Yeah, like the real pull type, not all the experiments that were done beforehand, like the real deal pull type that changed the industry forever. When was that? When was that around? What was those timestamps?
It almost was similar to what you're seeing with the hybrids today. Everybody who had a snowblower on a tractor was backing up trying to blow snow.
Mm-hmm. Outverted the other way.
And then when the box turned around, pretty much everybody got on board with that. That became the new residential standard. A couple of snow belts like Quebec City where it didn't adapt as quickly there to the pull type blowers straight out. They tend to run those X-Pros where they're coming in with a snow blower and then they're dropping the scraper blade and pulling back. Some of the guys in Laval like to have that blade, expandable blades in the front of their small tractors, pull the snow out, blow it to the side. We didn't really see the sense in touching the snow one more time and walking all over it. So
Yeah, absolutely.
What we needed to do was to get closer to the garage door. We needed a better cutting angle so the blowers would scrape better, and we needed to leave less snow in the street. And I think we achieved it all with Cyclone and some of the guys that are making the hybrid style blowers right now are showing improvements to what the old system was as well. But
Absolutely. It's all hybrids nowadays. You don't even really see too many of the standard inverteds. How long were you running the standard inverteds before you were like, you know what? I'm going to chop these blowers up. I'm going to start playing around with them, and I'm going to invent something a little bit different here.
Yeah. I know it's got to been at least 25 years that we've been running that pull-type blower with the, the barrel and the gearbox behind the box. And, nothing changed. It was, it's so, you spend a lot of time in your tractors looking at the snow enter a snowblower, and you've got a lot of time to think. And, without any innovations, really, no innovations happened in snowblowers for about 25 years. So, we saw Michel Giroir fooling around with bidirectional snowblowers. And, okay, so there's other ways to blow snow. You saw Reese Industries trying a single-phase snowblower. That was something different and didn't really work that well. But it gave you something to model from. And I think what I learned is that pulling the snow into the box, so you got your screw pulling the snow together, you've got the snow being pulled into the box, up the back wall, and what we found, we threw the snow in our original prototype, we threw the snow directly into the fan from the lift pallets. And it worked pretty good in the wet snow, worked very well in the wet snow, worked well in deep snow, but it really didn't perform well in 1.5 inches, 2 inches of fluff, because the snow was mixing with the air, and that's what spurred on that. We need to condense the snow more. So at the end of the day, what makes a good snowblower is changing the density of the snow, so you can put more up through the hole, and the heavier the snow is, the more compact it is, the further you'll throw it with the least amount of energy. So we're saving about 30% in fuel. And geez, the tractors are doing the same work at 1,600 RPMs that we used to do at 2,300 RPMs. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot quieter on the streets. You're burning a lot less fuel, a lot less wear and tear on your equipment. Yeah, so that was a real change. The game changer, though, started really about people wanting to condense routes, becoming visible, marketing yourself with pickets. Those were the first few steps. And then it was selling a service that was a little bit better than what we used to see. So from a backup style snowblower, that was my competitor, we went to a pull type. So when he'd leave a driveway, he would leave tire marks in it. When we left a driveway, it was perfectly clean. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden the customers wanted to buy into that. So the pull type blowers really were the first significant change to the way we cleaned. Snow in the street, it was always a bit of an issue. It could get a little messy. So we were pretty happy when we came up with that new design, and now like you said, you don't even see pull type blowers anymore. You used to sell them for $4,500 if you were lucky. You find one for $4,500. Now you can hardly get $2,500 for it.
I have one left in the fleet. It's an older Norman pull type before the hybrid, and you know what? It's pretty bomb proof. It serves its purpose. However, you leave that almost a foot essentially from the garage door, even more than a foot actually, with the blade on the back. Yeah. And that's where you don't get the benefit of the hybrid, right? You just can't get as close to things. You can't do as clean as a job. And then snow on the street.
Snow out in the street.
Snow on the street again.
One more move out in the road if you want to clean it up, or you feather it and be a bit of a pig.
Yeah.
It's okay on like long rural routes, farm laneways. Mm-hmm. They're really good rugged blowers and good value if you can find them used. But if you're doing production snow blowing in town, they're no longer a useful tool.
No, absolutely not. They're just not as clean. We only pull it out as a spare. I mean, only if we absolutely have to. If one of our hybrids break down, then we'll throw that old standard pull type Norman in the mix and run out with it. We had to do it last year. It won't happen again this year. I highly, highly doubt it, but in case of an emergency, we keep it around. There's no point in selling it. We're just going to hold on.
What I did with my old snowblowers, that's where the Frankensteins came in. So after trying a couple of different models out, we kind of thought that the next thing we should try after the single phase was to put the fan up in the air and pull the snow into the box and up the back wall. And we cut apart one of the Inverse 92s and reconfigured it, and we did that late in the season of March. There's still a little bit of snowbank here and there, and it blew like we were impressed. So that summer following, we committed ourselves and cut 20 of the Pronovost blowers apart and reconfigured them into a new box. Used a lot of the same components. We used the Hitch. We had to cut in the back, so I used part of the drum barrel. Fan turned the wrong direction. Chutes were still worthwhile and had value. And of course, we were able to modify the augers. And I kept the two side plates. So I cut the side plates to a different shape, used the bolt pattern for the bearings. I was able to use the side shafts had to rebuild the gearboxes with a passenger shaft. So we really started to, so 20 of those blowers went out the next year, the Frankensteins. I gave them to my senior drivers because I wanted good feedback, comparative feedback. And the guys were coming back saying that they wouldn't go back and use their old. I said, you used it for 25 years. What do you mean you can't blow snow with the old blower? Oh, no, it's no way. We can't do it.
You took the back blade completely off, closed it in, made it like a hybrid style, right? And then
the Frankenstein was the first of the hybrids.
The very first one. You were working off inverses or P92 Pronovost?
P92. So it would have been easier to do the modification had I had the backup style blowers.
Yeah.
Because by taking the fan and you're taking it from one position behind the snowblower facing the tractor to not facing the tractor above, so everything had to change at a different direction. So the auger had to be flipped over and powered from the right side versus the left side. The fan was turning backwards, so the fan was scrapped. Mm-hmm. The barrel housing, I had to cut out the back and reverse it over so that because the chute's on the right side as well. So getting my head around that was a bit weird the first couple, but we figured it out. We kind of semi-mass produced those 20. We had a design and we kind of cut some parts up in a production mode and it worked really well. So that's
impressive. Yeah, a lot of modifying, a lot of playing around, trial and error, failure,
no, not
all
really.
The above, or was it just smooth sailing?
Really, the first one worked well, except for the easiest conditions, which was light, fluffy powder.
That's where it failed a bit.
Well, that's what forced us to do the deflector. So we say, okay, well, why is it not working well in these light conditions? It's because the snow was being shot right into the center of the fan, and this is, I guess, relevant for anybody shopping for a hybrid blower right now. How does the snow enter the fan? So if you're going to throw snow from the lift pallets on the auger into the middle of the fan, there's nothing to push that snow out. The force is at the end of the pallets, not in the center.
So you want to be left or right?
Yeah, because that's the only place it accelerates against the wall of the blower and the end of the fan tip. So it's the tip speed really that creates that throw.
Yeah.
So if you throw it in the middle, it just mixes with the air and it just spills out the chute and it's all over the place.
Fluffs up, yeah.
It doesn't work. So
it doesn't condense it.
So what we tried, our first deflector was a deflector lowering the snow. So rather than to shoot it in the center of the fan, we threw it on the lower half, which is what you're kind of seeing on the Norman snowblower. You see where the door is much lower to the ground? So their solution to not putting the snow or as much snow in the center was to drop the height of the door. So you're putting the snow in the bottom half of the drum. But it shortens your acceleration time. So you're only able to accelerate your snow on the bottom half of the curve. Where when we kept our door up higher, we put a deflector in there. So we squeeze the snow, which is part of that changing its density, and we put it in the top right corner. So we're at the maximum distance from the chute opening, so we can accelerate the snow. And by having the deflector, it also creates that half moon that you typically saw on the old style blowers.
Absolutely.
And that half moon stops you from introducing new snow into the flow of snow going out the chute. So yeah, that'll accelerate the snow further. So it doesn't restrict it. So you're not throwing snow into the path that's going up the chute. So the deflector is really a key component, and it's the component that I took the patent on. And it's the difference between every other quote-unquote hybrid blower and the Cyclone. It's the deflector. So we condense the snow by squeezing it through the fan. We put it in the optimum spot in the barrel for maximum acceleration, and we still have the half moon that protects the snow going up the chute from being slowed down with more snow being thrown at it.
Wow.
But so that was really kind of unique, and we only had that opportunity to do so when we were building a blower that brought the snow up the back wall. So that's sort of the evolution of
that's amazing.
The Cyclone, and the aha moment. It's all about snow density.
Yeah.
And I think like I was telling you that analogy, take a piece of gravel and toss it 10 feet and see how much arm you've got to put behind it to throw a ping pong ball 10 feet. And that's what makes a good snowblower. It's changing the density of the snow. And you still see a lot of snowblower manufacturers who don't get that. So they're, for example, building a fan that's flat and they bend the little lip at the edge of the fan blades. So when the snow gets hit by a flat blade, it literally creates an explosion. It breaks all the compaction. So not a good fan design.
It's not condensing it at all.
Look down the throat of a bunch of snowblowers. They're still building fans with flat blades because they don't quite realize what makes a good snowblower. It's not,
I'm
5 pallets or 6 pallets or 4 pallets.
Yeah.
What's more important is the shape of the pallets.
Yeah.
The shape, very much the shape.
If I'm saying this correctly, I'm just trying to recall, the fan inside the Cyclone is curved all the way around.
It's curved, right.
All the way around, yeah.
Curved, yeah. So what happens when you hit the snow that's in the barrel house with a curve, it slides to the back. It's just natural centrifugal force. And as it slides down, it's sliding down from both sides and it compacts it. So it's like everybody knows how to make a snowball. You do it with cupped hands.
Same way.
Nobody's going to make snowballs with their hands flat and, it's just going to break apart. And that's exactly what I realized.
After Frankenstein. Pretty well, right?
No, I realized that actually quite a bit before that. I go, wait, I'm going back now in time again. We probably were running 00 series in the I think I had 6300. Really? So
the attempt always was to, hey, let's condense the snow to be able to shoot it better out of the blower.
I didn't realize how effective it really was. I guess the proof was when I bought. I was all Pronovost P92s, and I liked certain things about the Norman snowblowers. There were couple of things that I thought that were well done. At the time, it was Victor was the owner of the company, and I called him up and I said, I'm a Pronovost guy. There's a couple of things I'd like about your blower. Can you make me a good price? So I'll buy one. I'll give you some honest feedback. And the first thing I did when I took that blower out was I was amazed at how much snow I was pulling out in the street. It's like a wheelbarrow full. It was a big snow and it was granular, so it was a challenge just the same. But my God, I just didn't think that fan was processing the snow. I'm used to the snow getting kind of sucked in and blown and coming out in a thick, heavy ribbon, where this snow was bouncing around everywhere. And I was watching the fan because it was the old pull type, and I could see that flat-bladed fan slapping the snow, and it would just blow it right out of the barrel instead of up the chute. So I made some pallets, in curved pallets, and I inserted them in. I called Victor up and I said, we made a little modification on the fan. It's working much better. And he says, that's interesting. I said, we're working on a new fan design too. And his fan design that he was concentrating more on was to open up the center of the fan. If you looked at some of the old fan designs, the blades sort of started at the hub and they were almost straight lines. So kind of like but again, when you're throwing your snow into the fan, you need to have space. So you kind of create a hollow. A good fan is hollow in the middle, and the blades are on the outside. And of course, curved is what's going to pack your snow and changing your density. So it's not really like complicated stuff, but
no,
it's amazing how many snow removal snow manufacturers of blowers are still making flat fans when all they have to do is probably 2 more creases in the press. It doesn't have to be a beautiful curve, but at least, keep it from being like a slap and paddle.
No, absolutely. You know what? I'm trying to even recall how the Normans are on the inside. I'm not going to talk like I know exactly how they look, but I'm almost positive they're flat and then they have a curve at the end. I'm pretty sure. I'd have to double check the new hybrids.
A lot of times
it's definitely not like a Cyclone though. Definitely not.
You're going to have a bend of some sort at the end of the fan tip.
Yep.
And these are small details that are super important on the way it pulls the snow into the fan. So you want to be opened a little bit. You don't want the fan tip to be too big, because as it spins quickly and you had large fan tips bent, it's actually creating a wall at the same time. As much as it's collecting snow, it spins so quick it almost creates a bit of a wall. So you have to have a place for the snow to go in, slide to the outside of the barrel housing, and then be accelerated. And I think we did a great job with that. We did a great job on the Cyclone.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's pretty well damn nearly a vacuum when it's picking up that snow.
And almost nothing left in the street.
Nothing left on the street. Sucks up snow off the driveway a lot better than a lot of other blowers I've used. And the biggest difference too I noticed is it just condenses the snow so well, like you're telling me. And the stream that comes out of the tip of that chute,
it's very precise.
It looks like a thick taste of like concrete coming out of it. It's so thick and condensed.
Actually,
it doesn't blow snow like powder, kind of like how the Frankenstein did. You know, when we were watching that video earlier, when you were near the beginning of inventing the cyclone, like when the Frankenstein came out, you could see the way it spattered out the chute. It just wasn't even close to as condensed as the new ones
the
now.
deflector is really key.
That's what it was. So start to finish, what are we talking? 6 years? Is that what it is?
6 years now. We've been building the let's call it the 92 Cyclone is still based on what must be our 7th year of production. So what we did from Frankenstein was proof of concept, and it was pretty ugly blower. I mean, it was a Frankenstein, all used parts. It was kind of good because we had so many of these blowers we had to do something with. So we did repurpose some. I like that. And then we went into a real a design phase where we wanted to go to a laser cut company and have the components made. Even the shape of it with the slope back, the hitch going up, coming back down again. We really thought a lot about the weight balance. We wanted a good durable blower, so we built it with plate steel. We didn't use sheet metal. We galvanized it, and then we wanted to be more productive. I'm a snow guy. I make my money cleaning driveways still. And we wanted to have a competitive edge, so the wings on those blowers are pretty damn good.
Were you the inventor of the wings as well?
The wings, for snowblowers, I would say so, yeah. Actually, it goes back, so it's a funny, I was saying 3 years or something
43
like that.
years in the business, you were telling me earlier.
Everybody's connected one way or another.
Yeah.
So here's kind of an interesting connection. So I said we had some connection with Norman years ago when the original owner, Norman Blowers, was Vincent, and Victor, I should say, not Vincent. Victor was just a really cool guy and open-minded, and we did some things. We always had a pretty good relationship. And then Jimmy from Metal Plessy that's bought Norman now, eh? And about, if it's not 20 years by now, I went up to his shop there in Plessyville and said, Jimmy, I wanted to build some wings for my snowblowers. I did a one-up model on my old Pronovost blower. I put some wings on it, and I thought that was pretty cool. So I wanted to build 10 of them, and I went out to his shop there. And this is the day that he was still doing the design of the live edge. So we're going back a pile of years. And his dad had started the metal shop up, and he was building a lot of tracks for and snow groomer equipment. That was his dad's interest, I guess. Jimmy was starting to build the plows, and Metal Plessy was very, they really knew where to put the beef. Like, they didn't build a big, super heavy plow, but they put a strong beam on the bottom where all these big, heavy plows were always bending. So there was other companies building heavy equipment, but it would fall apart. I thought Metal Plessy had a really great design sense, and they were really incorporating those hydraulic wings on their blades at the time. So I saw the floating skis, and I said, well, why don't you, how much would you charge me to cut all these metal parts up? So he loaded me up with some metal and some hydraulic fittings and hoses. He was a great guy, and we brought him home and welded them together. And so those were the very first wings. But we never really were a manufacturer. We were just a snow company trying to find our edge. And I think part of that drive is we were on the island of Montreal. There's no new houses really being built. And there's some strong competitors in town. So you always, and we had 90% of the homes are already buying the service. So the only new customers you're going to get are coming from your competitors. So it really drove you to being performance-minded, more productive. There was a lot of price warring back then, so you had to be super efficient.
Well, it forced you to think outside of the box. What could I do differently to get that competitive edge?
Exactly.
And you went for the thing that is obviously the most important. People were probably missing the big point was the blower. You ran for the blower to make improvements to be able to change the industry a bit for yourself, and then it changed for everyone, of course.
Then we sold it to some friendly competitors, and then, geez, like I say, people were saying. So the first time I knew really we hit the nail on the head was it's typical that at the end of a storm, some people are coming back a little sooner. your yard's starting to fill up with tractors from the guys that are finishing, and there'll be some guys out there. My tractor's broken. He'll come back, take a tractor from the yard. Typically, the guys would come back and they would want to take the prettiest tractor.
Yeah, of course.
And not anymore. They were picking the tractor that was sucked had a cyclone on it. And I never could have imagined a guy choosing his tractor based on what snowblower was hooked up to it. So,
you know what, Jim? I didn't feel that pain, right? I wish I could go back in time to be around when the business model was like really in its early stages, when the standard pull type came out. And I wish I would have been able to actually like really use the first model of the pull type, because my first blower essentially, well, it was an Agri-Trend, which is a very, very, very standard old school blower. It didn't even have the blade.
That's a pull type.
It was a pull type without the blade on the back. So it was a little bit odd, and it stuck out quite far.
Light duty, farm equipment.
Very light farm equipment. And you couldn't even actually have your chute tip go up and down.
You only had
it was ran
deflector.
on like a pin, and you had to move it. So all you could do is move it this way. That was my very first blower on my MX 5400 Kubota. Right. And then my next blower after that was an L6060. Or sorry, I got a tractor, and it was an L6060. And then I got the Pronovost Cyclone on the back with the hydraulic wings, galvanized, like top of the line blower. And obviously it was like night and day, of course, right? Yeah. And I never really got to, I guess the Agri-Trend was definitely a blower kind of similar to the original pull type, but still not exactly the same feel.
The depth of the fan was only, I think, barely 8 inches, if even, depending on some of the models, it could have been only 6 inches deep.
It was a small unit. It didn't even fulfill the whole width of the back of the tractor. It was a little bit smaller, 74 inches, 72 inches.
But it was the value. It's just like a homeowner snowblower.
It was great. I mean, it was the first one we had. I only had 30 driveways.
Yeah. Got you started.
Yeah, that's how it started. And
better than an army truck.
Yeah.
Ambulance on top of it.
An ambulance, that's hilarious. But yeah, no, I never got to really experience having the original standard pull type and seeing the difference going to the Pronovost like Cyclone full blown, right? The Agri-Trend was kind of like that, but it's not like the pull type still. It's a little bit different. It is a little bit different.
Yeah, you can go and step one back farther where we're actually backing up blowing snow. I mean, that was rough.
Yeah, I never did that either. That's
if you had to put the snow into the wind, I mean, your cab is getting pasted with the mist, and all of a sudden it's fogged up inside and it's freezing on the outside. I guess you could say
that's where it really started. So, yeah.
So we knew that we had to make some innovations. Like, you used to come up a driveway sometimes, and you know, you're somewhere between probably 10 and 6 feet from the garage door. Most of those driveways in the area we were cleaning were slightly uphill. So you're clutching in. These were clutch tractors. There weren't even power shifts back then. Wow. So you're clutching in. You're waiting for the snow to clear to get a bearing on how close am I to the house. Mm-hmm. And then you're inching slowly your way up, riding the clutch, not wanting to push the snow through the garage door. And then from there, actually, we did one modification. So we did on that blower, we stuck on a scraper blade like you'd see, like a rear trip blade you see on a snowplow, and we stuck sides on those blowers. So we were always kind of trying to find out. So we could come in blowing the snow on the way in, we'd lift the blower up, and then we came back on just that, you know, that backup blade basically. So it was on a hinge like on a snowplow, and it had two heavy sides, and that scraped really well. So that did a really quality job. It kept us from pushing the snow up to the garage doors. That was a pretty good system. Yeah, that's pretty good too, actually.
I'm going to go back to talking about the Cyclone a bit, and Pronovost as a whole. Like, we need to see more blowers out there. We really do. I mean, I feel like there's only a few companies now that I know of personally. I mean, I'm sure there's tons more out there, but I see most people using Norman now. And that's what I switched over to as well. Right. And, you know, from my personal experience running Billadoo, Norman, they are great blowers, but they still don't stand a chance to the Pronovost Cyclone. And that's just facts. Anybody who's used both can contest to that is factual. The Pronovost Cyclone is a better blower. You will pay slightly more, but end result, it's a much better product. You got the hot dip galvanized. It cleans snow off the road like no other blower can ever. You could run your RPMs a little bit lower, saving on fuel like we discussed, and you could really condense that snow to be able to shoot it a little bit farther. So, and then the hot dip galvanized is like the cherry on the cake. You don't got to always constantly be spending money on painting your equipment every couple years and having employees doing all that. Like, they last the way they are for 10 years without even getting any rust.
You saw some of the old original ones actually look better than the 1-year-old one.
They did.
As the galvanized cures with time, it gets harder and harder. And yeah.
We need to see more Pronovost cyclones in the industry. That's just my personal opinion.
We need better distribution channels, it seems, because so many people say that they don't think that they're available. But you saw at the yard, there's 30 blowers assembled. That should be already in customers' yards. Forget about dealers, right? Why are they at our yard?
I know, and it makes me frustrated. I mean, Normans are definitely a bit easier to get. That's kind of the discussion right now.
Yeah.
The price point, I mean, they're not too far off. You're going to spend an extra $1,000, maybe $2,000 getting a Pronovost Cyclone, but it's a hell of a blower. Yeah. I mean, in terms of the spend, you'll make that back in 1 year just because you don't have to do all those extra swipes on the road to clean up your mess at the end too,
the
right?
Driveways at $500 a pop, $2,000. What's that? 4 driveways? Come on.
Yeah.
We know we can do 4 more driveways in a Cyclone for sure.
You're more efficient, period.
You're going to own them for the next 20 years, so.
Especially if you get them hot dip galvanized, 100%. Yeah, definitely. We need to see more. That's pretty much what I'm trying to discuss here, is because there's people who want them, but they just keep complaining that they're hard to get.
They think that they can't get parts for them. They think that these parts are kind of unique Pronovo. Some of them are, but most of it's just chains and bearings for the most part. Those are the parts that you'd need to keep in stock. PTO shafts, it's not proprietary by no means. Yeah, I think I applied for a job at Pronovo, and I hope I get it.
Yeah, I hope so too.
That's Ontario and Northern States.
Pronovost needs you, Jim. The industry needs you for as long as we could have you around.
Good fun.
And it'd be really nice to see some more cyclones in everybody's fleet. That's my personal opinion.
I'd like to see more direct comparisons, because honest to God, I don't think anybody realizes what makes the cyclone. What is the patent? The patent is the deflector. Why is that important, and what does it do? Well, I'm trying to emphasize that now with this changing the density of snow is key to making a good snowblower, because everything's got to go through a circle, so you have a restriction point. So the smaller it is, the more it goes through. The heavier it is, the farther you throw it with less energy. So fuel savings matters. You're not, it's a big deal. So nobody else has the deflector. Well, they kind of look the same, but they're not.
Nobody has the identical deflector now.
That's the patent. That's good for another, at least 10 years, if not 11, 12,
Do you think as soon as the patent's up, all the snow companies are going to jump all over that?
I think that they're going to be finding other ways. Like instead of lowering your door, for example, there's one way to do it. You can't be throwing snow in the middle of your fan and expecting performance. So you got to either pull it down or put a deflector in of some sort, of some sort, But the deflector that we have, it does 2 functions. So it deflects the snow and positions it, but it funnels it and squeezes it, and it creates the half moon, so it's protecting the flow going up the chute. So it actually does 3 functions. That nobody can copy.
No one forever.
Well, till the patent expires.
Yeah. I'm just kind of mind blown that there's an expiration date on it. I thought
that's the way it works.
That is it.
All have a duration.
Just learned something new. I had no idea.
So we need to come up with some new ideas. That's all.
Yeah.
Which we're working on, right?
Absolutely. Definitely could come up with some new ideas to evolve the business model more, because it definitely could need it for sure. Yeah.
So it's funny, you look at the business more from what is the model, and it really is a snow removal model now. So it's more than just simply a tractor snowblower. I mean, that's your general model, and then you can bring in your marketing approach to it, customer communications. FollowSoft or a tablet, let's say, I think FollowSoft is still the best one out there, is a great way to have the driver's frustration level at the lowest. I met somebody from TechnoSnow. And this FollowSoft all started actually with OperaSoft, which was Paul Andre. So it really, and FollowSoft, I think it's Jean-Marc is the owner of that company, right? Signature,
it's Jean-Luc.
Jean-Luc.
Yeah.
So Jean-Luc was a customer of OperaSoft years ago, and so was I. And Paul Andre had some great ideas, but never really finished it. And it was really frustrating to have a system that didn't really work the way it should. And I believe he was one of the guys that built it in-house. So that Signature Snow invested in finishing what OperaSoft was and created FollowSoft. Another fellow, Carl from the Gatineau, he brought it in-house, took that model and built his own proprietary system based on the same features, but it worked properly. his system, yeah, it wasn't hooked up with Wi-Fi, so it's pretty neat. When he brought his tablets to his office, they all synced, so they updated the routes, and then 5 of the guys at the end of a storm would turn on live cellular data, and they would start getting all the service calls. But every other feature worked the same,
Wow.
except you didn't have live updates. So he did his proprietary system in-house, not being on a cloud base, so it wasn't complete, we can have girls answering the phone in their pajamas from their houses in a snowstorm now.
Absolutely.
And still be effective. They can see where their tractors are. They can answer the client's questions, voice over IP telephones. So the model it's just a model is take all your best technologies, use them to your advantage, give a good customer service, fill in the density. That's truly the model. Get the best high performance equipment you can.
Absolutely.
Spoil your guys, get your best drivers. You can afford to pay them well now. That's the model, really. The whole model is being able to treat your men well, customers well, and requires productivity and durability on your equipment. I think we'll see where the next rabbit comes out of. I'm not sure. We could find small innovations that might, give us
I think it's going to be
add-ons.
the tractor. There's going to be a tractor that's going to be built here soon, I'd imagine, that is going to be specifically for the model. 100%. It's sooner than later now. And we discussed this, I think yesterday,
Right.
you were saying that it's more than likely going to be electric as well. And I'd imagine that too, to be quite honest.
Yeah, in the long run, it's sort of, if I had a little more brain power, I'd apply myself to electrifying a tractor.
That'd be brilliant. That's where everything's going. I'm thinking we're going to see it, honestly, in the next, I would say 2 to 5 years. We're going to see some company come out, whether it be John Deere, Kubota, Yanmar,
I don't think it's going
New
to be.
Holland.
I don't think so, because they're so invested in the motors. You see, they don't want to it's too expensive for them to throw away all their good work to create a new model until they have to. So I think it's going to be somebody independent or from an electrical truck manufacturer that's going to say, okay, we understand the motors, we've got the battery pack down, the controller systems. I've got a design in my head that would work really well for I call it a tool carrier versus a tractor. So it'd be very specific to snow blowing. The costs would be much lower. The maintenance would be lower. I think it's going to be something you'll see in the future. Not
absolutely.
that distance, and who knows? It could be a snowblower manufacturer building this tool carrier as well.
Well, how'd you feel about Better Way Canada? Did you see those tractors they made?
It's Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah. I sold Landinis in the past, and
I mean, they're $180,000 with a blower, $190,000 with a blower, or something like that.
But they're not really bringing in a new innovation. You
No.
know, they're a tractor that's popular in Quebec City because they're still running that XP style blower.
Yeah.
They want a bi-directional tractor so that the driver can sit facing the snowblower that's reversed, just the old conventional type. So he's got, instead of having a blower in the front, which gets a little bit too long and you don't have the maneuverability, they're using the articulating tractors, which was the Versatile out of Winnipeg, which turned into a Ford product for a while, Ford Versatile. And when they let go of the product, I think actually the Bueller started back up the Versatile in Winnipeg, but they're only building a big horsepower. And then some of the smaller Italian tractors like Anthony Carraro is a neat little articulating tractor too. It's Orchard tractor, so it's a small footprint, very low, bi-directional, so you can sit either way on the machine. And then you've got this Best tractor, which they claim it to be something sort of semi-industrial. It's a farm tractor on probably a heavier platform. And then there was another group coming out of Finland, which was the Valtra. So the Valtra had a seat that would turn around, a small little steering wheel, and that allowed bi-directional use. But it's not much different than what I said to you earlier today. Do one thing well. So I don't want to go back and forth on my seat too much. So I decided that rather than a bi-directional snowblower blowing snow on the way in and then flipping something over and pulling the snow out and then having to roll something over again, it's just, to me, that's a lot of, somebody who has a particular need for that application, that's great. But if you can just drive up to the top of the door, drop a blower, pull it out, lift it up, and there's no more snow. I got a lot of compliments when I first started selling Cyclone, is that it made the job so much easier. So I had one company, Jag Snow Removal, out here in Ottawa. He was selling he was buying my blowers to give to his rookies because it made their job easier. And then all of a sudden his senior guys were like, hey, wait a minute, these little rookies are cleaning almost as many driveways. Why do they get the new blowers? So the next year he placed an order for blowers in April. In the snow business, I never seen that before. So it was a game changer. So it made it easier as well as more productive. So I guess I'm doing a bit of a scatterbrain here, but that loop, going back to Carl in the Gatineau, I took a tour with one of his employees to show me his system. I was really looking at his system at the time, and of course he was looking at the Cyclone blowers as well. So we were kind of collaborating to some extent. And his employee said, there's 2 reasons why I work for Carl. He says, 1 was the Cyclone snowblower, and 2 was the tablets.
Wow.
He says, if I had to go to paper lists and all that shit, or having to deal with messes in the street, the frustration level is what's killing drivers.
100%.
Right? The drivers have a lifespan, and it'll be greatly increased the more comfortable they are. So taking a driver out of a truck, a pickup truck, and putting him in a tractor, I would say that added about 5 years onto the life of a driver. I had some senior men in tractors because they have great lighting. They're they're up high. They see all the way around them. They're not frustrated. They're not ramming banks. They're just putting the snow where they want it. So the tractor was the first big change. Snowblower again, and we're refining it some more. It's working really well. I still believe in the hydraulic wings as being a super advantage. Plow ends, sometimes you're having to run around your routes 3 times, right? So you're open. We're not waiting for the snow always to stop and then clean them once. So open is great when you can do a single in 1 shot and a double in 2, right? And then having the ability to scoop with your wings, the plow ends, my God, you can zigzag down the street if it's open before the final pass, right? If it's still snowing and you got the plows running through your routes, just holding ground, and you might be only like a 2-foot snowbank because it's not their final pushback, but you still got to clean it. So zoop with the left wing, right wing, you can zigzag down the road, taking it from both sides. And you notice we have the floating ski on the hydraulic wing. So
brilliant.
Most driveways are on a slope. So if I went in with a fixed box and tried to grab that plow end, I'd be riding up into his driveway, leaving a scratch, and I'm going to fill all of the straight edge, So I'm not scraping it well. So I keep my blower in the road, and I reach my wing, and I can catch the snow ends.
I remember you telling me that it's very wise to put, basically for every 10 machines, you could have 1 larger piece that goes 45 kilometers an hour, 100 horsepower with a 92, put the wings on it. And, when you got to do dispatch, you're saving yourself a lot of time and headache and money, right? Having that piece of equipment go out there and just bob and weave in and out of houses to be able to clean those plow ends. It's very, very efficient and effective.
Yeah, with your smaller tractors, and you can kind of just thread a few of the bigger ones in to do that sort of like chase the plow ends, because it's those little tractors, boy, cleaning snow, they're fine. It's if you get a 4-foot snowbank, that's where the big tractors can kind of just put them on a plow beat.
Yeah, they swallow the snow.
Clean the driveways and let the big guy just go out and scoop the ends. If you were really gun pound, if you had a tight enough area and you were really,
How I look at the ratio now, and you did bring some perspective to me, but I think this is how I'm going to move forward in our hometown anyways, is I'm going to have 10 small machines.
Yeah.
Okay, so your compact tractors, L6060, 4066R, whatever you wish, with a Pronovost Cyclone on the back, fixed wings, right? Because we do a lot of dragging back in Sault Ste. Marie. Remember, garages are all the way along the side of the house, not in the front. It's in behind. So a lot of dragging. So fixed wings. And then for every 10 machines, I want to run 100 horsepower tractor with a 92-inch Cyclone with the extendable wings.
I have the hydraulic wings.
So if you have 30 units, have 3 big machines on the road.
And day after servicings, you'll take only the big machines, and he can go out. May not cover 10 routes efficiently, but depending again on the route density, 1 in 5 would probably. But you send a small tractor out closer and let the big guy go on the outline.
It all depends on density. For me right now, I think the ratio would be more wise to have 5 for 30 machines. So say I have 30 small machines, it'd be nice to have 5 big ones. That's actually the ratio I am running right now. The only sad part is that we have the Normans on our 4 John Deeres right now, and we only have one 92-inch Cyclone with the extendable wings. So we're not getting really that upside with that blower. However, at least we have the big machines to go and do those dispatches and day after services and whatnot. But as you get denser, I think you definitely need less big machines. For us anyways.
Yeah.
It works. Yeah. It works.
We're on the opposite of you. We're going to try to implement a couple new small machines this year.
Yeah.
We ran one last year. So all the guys are used to the big tractors. You take a guy out of a big tractor, put him in a small, it's tough.
It's not going to work.
But to bring new people into the business, putting them in a small tractor, they won't want to get in a big tractor. I'm sure it's the opposite. So
call me crazy, honestly, call me crazy. I love my John Deere 6110M. It is a Cadillac. But when I get in that Kubota L6060 and I find my rhythm, I prefer the machine better. I do, and I'll tell you why. It's just more efficient. You're not as stressed out worrying about this big piece of equipment hitting anything, or when you need to turn out of a driveway or turn on a road, you could just flip on a dime because it's such a small unit. It's so compact. It could turn 360 degrees on a road. You're not up and down on the clutch. You're not using your gears. It's just like a lot less controls. It's a lot more easy. It's a lot more brainless, to say the least. Okay. It's very simple. So when I find my rhythm on a dense route in a Kubota L6060, I would rather be in that position every time over a John Deere 6110M ripping around.
I haven't got to that point yet. But,
it's something.
I'm comfortable in the bigger machine, which is quieter, which is another issue. It's pretty loud, those small machines.
It's piercing. You have to put a pair of headphones in. You have to. It's piercing.
The comfort's there in a big tractor for sure, but so is the fuel cost, so is the initial cost, and it's forced us into a summer rental business, for God's sakes,
See,
right?
if we could
make ends meet.
If we could take advantage of more of the renting during the summer, I wouldn't be so opposed to getting larger units. But I mean, I've added up too many cons for us in our particular market in Sault Ste. Marie, and it works well for you here. It works well for a lot of people down south. Big units have their upside, but for us in particular, a lot of customers don't like them. We started off with the small tractors, remember. We never had big ones. Right. We started with the small.
They think the heavy tractors are going to break their driveways.
It's just not inviting people. And in my opinion too, like again, call me crazy, they do a better job cleaning. That's just my personal opinion. I think they do a better job cleaning. I don't know why, however. I mean, there's a couple different theories of why. The big machines, when they ride that bank, they get up on the curves of the driveway. When the snow drops and then it slowly melts and it creates that dip. Yeah. The small machine could cut in a little bit more because it doesn't prompt up
that's the problem.
Angle.
Yeah, 92 inches is really only 2 inches wider than the tractor on each side. So tractor's 80, I always thought they were about 88 inches, 86 inches wide, wheel to wheel is our stance. So you're not having the ability to cut those banks back like you could when it's sticking out 6 inches. But if you put a set of wings on, hydraulic wings, then we would go out the day afters and clean up lousy roots that weren't wide enough, and you could be ripping 2 feet of ice bank back with the wing.
Yeah, what Chris was talking to me about that is that you had to do that to some driveways over the winter.
Some of the guys were letting
to get rid of that
narrow.
Half pipe, kind of thing.
Or they're kind of funneling them a little bit,
This is when we noticed. We have this one particular spot within our city that is very dense, concrete driveways, a little bit more on the narrow side. It's kind of set up like Ottawa style.
Right.
Driveways in the front, not along the side of the house. And in our previous years, we had a small machine doing them. Yeah. Okay. Nice and flat, nice and even. The driveway stayed very square, flat and square and proper. No half piping going on. Right. The next year, when we put a big tractor on that route, and this is one of our densest routes with the most simplest driveways to do, of course, the half pipe started to happen the next year when we used a big piece of equipment. And that is when a lot of people were like, hey, we don't want this big tractor coming here anymore. We don't want it here anymore. Like, it doesn't do the same job the small one did last year. And that was another little perspective point for me where I was like, okay, That's different to hear. And after testing myself, it was certainly true. When you get that big unit and it goes up on that little bit of snow and tilts to the left or tilts to the right, it just doesn't cut the same, right? It really moves that tractor. Where the small one will kind of stay a little bit more flat, and the blower on the back will kind of move with it. Especially with the new Nordics edition now. I don't know if you've seen, but the rear end, like, when you move a large tractor, a John Deere, or even a 4066R, when it moves a little bit, like a degree to the left or the right, a couple degrees, the blower will move with it, right? It'll move completely with it, like identical. As where now there's a new feature they put in the rear end of the Kubota L6060 where the tractor moves, but the blower still drags flat.
Yeah, but that has to do with your setup on your connector links.
The connector
so you got
links.
your upper arms, and you got your lower links. You have your connector coming down. Most of the full-size tractors, at least all of the ones I know, have like a square washer. So you can
I know
either
exactly
stick
what you're
them
talking about.
horizontal or you can stick them vertical.
That way it has more play.
So if you stick them vertical, they're going to slide down. So the way we set up is one horizontal so the hitch doesn't settle down the crotch, and then one being vertical to allow it to flex. The small compacts came out, they didn't have those slots. They just ran straight pins, so now the tractor was locked at the same angle as your tractor.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't locked, you were twisting your arms and you're going to wear out your rock shaft on the lift system. So
they changed that now with the new
now
Kubotas.
the Nordic's going to have the slots.
Yeah.
And the thing that guys are still doing wrong, in my opinion, is they're setting them up both vertical. So they're allowing maximum twist, but every time you lower your hitch, it goes to the bottom beyond where the blower position really is. And then when you go to lift it, it goes bang. So you're shooting shocks through your... It's a good system, but only one half of it's supposed to be that way.
Really?
Doesn't matter left side or right side. One's horizontal, the other's vertical.
We got some adjusting to do back home.
I see it all the time.
We're vertical on ours. I remember calling somebody from down in Montreal. They told me to put it vertical, so that's why I did it.
So when I would I bought enough used tractors, and if I buy the tractor and they come to me as a snow tractor where they're both horizontal or both vertical, those are the rock shafts that are all worn out. I can see it.
And that's a big replacement.
Well, I think it's about... Yeah, you're going to buy the arms, and then you're going to have to buy a rock shaft. You could be into it for $1,600 if you do the work yourself, right? And that's not even all the seals, but you can easily double your lifespan by just turning one plate sideways. And of course it's shock through the system. It oblongs all the holes, all the pins in your snowblower, every. If you set your hitch down and then go bang every time you lift it, because it's 2 inches almost the slot. So you're going to run all the way up to 2 inches and then hit the hard metal versus having that horizontal one, always keeping your hitch where the blower is. So you're not bouncing that. Big, very important detail.
Really?
It's the one that's overlooked probably by most people.
We got some adjusting to do, I guess. That's hilarious. I had no idea.
So if you take anything from this that could be the tip du jour.
I'm going to go make some adjustments at home for sure. It makes perfect sense the way you're explaining it.
It doesn't matter which side you do. It's just one side horizontal, the other side
vertical. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, going back to the small compact units, of course, like it really blows my mind because there's so many businesses doing things different, right? Some guys that run almost all compacts. There's some guys who run just strictly big units, kind of like yourself. And to me, it's what works in your market, right? It really is what works in your market. It works on... You're shaking your head. Like what's going through your mind?
Well, what works is what you propose. Like, if you want to show it this way, it could go, all these systems work. And there's pros and cons to each one. I think a combination is probably the honest. It's not overly complicated to have half your tractors being one style and another half being a different one. It's when you start getting these anomaly tractors. So only one person's really used to driving that one. Like a guy that drives an IVT, you put him in a power quad, he's all fucked up.
Oh, yeah, big time. I've never even driven an IVT. Like I know to run
vice versa, right? It's both ways.
Yeah, if I want an IVT, I'd be slow as hell out there for a couple shifts.
If you have, like we have extra tractors, we have replacement tractors, we have training tractors. So I think bringing your rookies in on small compacts and allowing them to feel comfortable and like snow removal, because I've burned what I think good potential drivers by putting them in a tractor, and they were overwhelmed, and it just burned them like they gave up before they had a chance to get good.
Now I'll stop you for a second. I've had multiple people, like I would say almost a handful, and I've only been doing this for 4 years, walk out of the big machine and be like, I want to take a smaller one.
They stayed with you. A lot of them will walk away saying, I think snowmobile will suck shit and I don't want to ever do this in my life again.
Well, it's stressful. I mean, I learned how to drive a hydrostatic Kubota, and it was a lot quicker of a learning curve than a big unit. The big unit was very stressful, very overwhelming. My first snow event going out in a big tractor was a nightmare until I really got the muscle memory and the rhythm down and learned how to operate that machine. However, what I'm trying to say is that having the smaller units, here's just an upside in my opinion too. You need your big tractors. I don't want to steer away from that. You need your big tractors. I'm not trying to argue.
In my routes, I do. You saw when we were driving up to
You're driving 45 kilometers or 45 minutes at 45 kilometers an hour just to get to the farther end of your city to be able to do your servicing.
Yeah, those the only way
you'd be dumb to buy small machines. It would make no sense. But what I was trying to say is that from an operational standpoint, to be able to get employees in a machine to learn quicker.
Perfect spot to start.
Compacts are the way to go.
Yeah.
Now, if you aren't dense though, you're going to be hurting a little bit. That's when you kind of need a big machine.
I think it's hard to say. If you're an owner operator getting into snow removal on your first season, you're not going to have route density.
No.
Unless you're so lucky as to get one of those, like, what do they call them? Homeowners associations where you got 120 in one little pocket. Then that small tractor is just fantastic, you know? One of the things maybe why we've always done well with the big tractors is I still get in the tractor and I make these guys go through a real rigid routine. Like I watch the way they put their foot on their clutch pedal and how they run their clutch and how they shift and when they shift at what RPMs. I do a mock-up where their hand positions need to be correct. So when you're in forward, your hand's here. When you're in reverse, your hand's there. So by creating, I call it an exercise that the drivers have to go through, and I'm sitting beside them making sure they're good at it, and then I give them like some corrections, sort of show them what I want them to do. I put them in, I make some suggestions, where are you strong, where are you weak. So these guys are ready and they have that muscle memory before they go out in the first snow. That's really important for me. That's why I still get in the tractors with every new driver and even experienced drivers. From another company, I had guys come in from, I always say the Metro drivers, it's 1 out of 5 know how to drive a tractor. So they're good guys, they've done snow for years, but they don't really know how to drive a big tractor. And it's like, they're beating the shit out of them. And,
a lot of wear
and it's dangerous, you know, like the way they drive, it's like they're fighting it. So they're always full of anxiety, you know. So training is key, especially if in a big, you probably reduce all that in a smaller tractor and your drivers will adapt better. And so it's a mix, you know, it's really is a mix. And then, and if you know, the more expensive big tractors, well, we're going back, like I showed you some of those 208s, for example, the 208s, I was buying 208s for like mid-60s, you know, anywhere between 62 and 67,000 for a 6430 in 2008. Canadian dollar was strong, right? There's 2 years, 208, 209, the Canadian dollar was strong. That I could take that tractor today and if I bet some of them I'm in the low 50s still on a resale. It's a 14-year-old tractor.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That's pretty good.
Those 430s were a hit. They were a hit. The 410s, 420s, 430s, they were all a hit.
10 series was good. 20 series not as great. But still, you know, 30 series good.
It's hard to get your hands on a nice one, too. That's why you keep all yours.
We have a lot of tractors, yeah.
Yeah, but you got a lot of 430s, right?
I don't know the numbers anymore. We've started to, you know, you want to, like, say, keep your drivers engaged a little bit. So I'm okay to buy a new tractor and give it to a guy that's been around for a few years that's productive. And I see, like, when you went into these new slope nose John Deeres, like the 10s, the 6110 or 6120, I put a good driver in that tractor, he'll get an extra 5 or 10 more driveways done. And
do you think it was John Deere's intention to do that for us snow people? to make the slope nose and make it a little bit more compact? Like, were they trying to kind of bring the 430 back?
I think they realized that the design after the 30 series was a failure, and you know, they changed their series every 6 years. It was time to fix some of the mistakes that they made, and
the long nose was too much.
The long nose was supposed to be a big looking tractor, and it had a little longer footprint, maybe about 10 inches. It was probably better on the farm, but a 100 horsepower tractor doesn't have big work on a farm anymore. It's a loader tractor, and a loader tractor is better on a smaller footprint. So the idea was to create a more comfortable, heavier tractor for working in the field, which really wasn't a field tractor. It was a loader tractor that worked around the barn, so shorter, more visibility was key. And I think they're saying like 9 or 11 feet. You can see 11 or 9, between 9 and 11 feet closer on the slope nose.
Yeah, it was a world of a difference. I mean, not last year, but the year before, I drove the 130. John Deere 60 130M, and I drove it for approximately, season's 5 months, probably went out for 35 snow events, maybe like 50 something passes, whatever it may be. And I spent a lot of hours in that seat, and it was a really nice machine. I loved it. I kind of drove it in the rural routes of Sault Ste. Marie. Yeah. So I would start like way in the west end, work my way all around the rural area of the town, the outskirts, if you will. And then I'd end up all the way in the east end doing the bigger driveways. So I didn't really feel the pain so much of like having that long nose. But sometimes when I did get called for dispatch and I'd go in town, the tractor just felt a little bit too big for my liking. It really did. It felt big, long, and just a little bit obnoxious, right? Now the 110, which I drove a lot this year, which is the year after.
The redesign, so it's shorter with the slope
It felt
nose.
right. It felt right in the neighborhood. It felt right. I mean, despite customers not really liking the big machines in our territory, just because we've had so many small ones now.
But it's not so much the big machines that they didn't like. They didn't like the quality of the job.
That was
the quality of the job,
yeah.
in my opinion. Like even a good sway bar, you have your sway bars, sway chains to keep your blower in position. Mm-hmm. There's always a little bit of movement, right? So if you only have 2 inches of overhang on each side of your blower, and you have a little loose in your hitch, which you're always going to have on the sway bars, your blower's going behind the tire. So now you're putting the lug marks on the side of the driveway, and it's that lug mark. So you're driving over the snow, and that's what's creating the pipe? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're
half pipe, like it's like a half pipe.
You're cleaning with the snowblower less of a width of the driveway, and you're running that edge over with the lugs of your tires, so you're not getting a nice clean cut, and you're packing ice on the edge. And that was the beginning of the end. And you do that. Then as the driveway gets higher up, now the gravity pulls your blower out of position. It's not dragging straight behind you anymore, so it's even amplified. So as it gets worse, it gets worse.
Now you're making me kind of curious to ask, then why didn't they make like a 98 inch? Why didn't they make a 100 inch? Why not even a 96?
Why am I not making fixed wings that I can bolt onto the blowers for you guys, right?
Yeah, that too.
Maybe that's a question I should ask myself.
Yeah.
I did do that on a couple of blowers. I put extenders on them. Mm-hmm. Very simple system, and problem solved.
It cleaned a bit better. A lot better.
If you want to cut it, you cannot cut a snowbank back with your tire.
No.
Not really. You're just packing snow. You need to have a blower wider than your tractor.
Now, with the smaller compact units, you're like I said, I know you're 2 inches on the bigger units. On the smaller ones, I would say you're about 4 or 5 inches on each side.
Oh, at least, yeah.
At least. Maybe even a hair more on...
6 inches.
Because the Normans are an 82. The Cyclones are an 80. So you got an extra inch on each side with the Normans, or like Billadoos and stuff like that. They're all 82, but oddly enough, the Cyclones are an 80. So you do lose that inch on each side.
And you have that little cutter. You notice that on the Cyclones? You have the cutter, so it'll get that extra inch on each side.
Yeah.
That's not a bad. The cutter's kind of nice because it creates a real crisp edge, eh?
Real crisp edge, like a really crisp edge. The one thing I really admire about the bottom of the Pronovost Cyclones, because we flipped them upside down and dulled all the edges on our stainless steel edges, like you told us to. Not a lot, but just enough, and really cut those corners so we're not gouging. Yeah. When I was looking underneath that blower in particular, there's stainless steel that just runs all the way along the wings too, right at the bottom. Like the stainless steel goes all the way along the fixed wings as well as the hydraulic wings. There's a strip of stainless steel at the bottom.
It's a half inch by 1.
Norman went the rubber route. And like if you have a Norman or if you've used a Norman, you know that rubber obviously wears down a lot quicker than stainless. And then on top of that, you're leaving streaks in the driveway.
How wide's the rubber? 1.5 inches? 2 inches?
Like taller
Widthwise.
Widthwise, I would say you're about 1.5 inches. Inch and a half. And then height wise, you're probably looking at like 3 inches.
And it's got the spring that's holding it down, right?
It's got the spring. It's got leaf springs.
See, that's where we kind of...
And they lock up all the time. And then on top of that, the rubber wears, like in our season back home in Sault Ste. Marie, all the rubber wore down on basically all of our units within a year. Yeah, so that's no good to us. You know, I know they want these wear parts, so you're buying more, right?
I think they just think that they're going to scratch the driveways too much. But
why not put a strip of stainless steel underneath?
Well, we have a floating skis, right?
Yeah.
On your fixed wings, they're a floating ski as well.
Absolutely, and they're stainless underneath.
Right, and the floating part's only it's a fairly thick piece of metal, but it only weighs maybe like 20 pounds.
Yeah.
So it's not like the whole weight of the blower is going to scratch with those fixed wings, and they clean so much better.
Absolutely.
When you've got steel, just the natural weight of the steel is heavy enough. You don't need to put a spring on it.
Yeah. So you have these springs with the rubber edges on the skid shoes directly.
But we know the springs
bottom of the box.
And the springs are breaking.
The springs are breaking and they freeze all the time. So we took all of our leaf springs out.
So what do? Just gravity?
They just gravity.
But you don't have enough weight to scrape proper.
But then they freeze up all the time.
They stay up anyways because.
But with the leaf springs, they stay up too. Like there's no winning. Like the Norman's got a flaw. It's a failed design. I don't care who's watching what they say. I think it's a failed design. We tried to work our way around it so many different ways, and sadly we're stuck with a number of those units. We're slowly going to get rid of them, but it's a failed design.
Maybe try a steel one with a stain. Just make a cut, make your own ski. I'll send you one out this year.
Yeah, I'd love to put
steel ski with a stainless strip on the bottom and. I don't see why it wouldn't work all by itself just like that.
I think it would be really wise. I mean, you could definitely bolt in some stainless steel skis right in there, and you won't have that skid shoe issues of you leaving these black marks all over the driveway. And they're nasty black marks. Like, they're nasty. Like, we were test running them before.
Especially if you're talking about concrete driveways. They're all...
On concrete, it's god-awful. Yeah. But you do it to a brand new, like
graffiti,
stem concrete or interlock driveway. It's just not cool. Like, when we were testing them out, even on the asphalt... before we went out for our actual first snow event, we were doing it in a couple of the dry runs. I was actually talking to Glenn. I was like, Glenn, man, like we're practicing with our blowers right now, and they're leaving black streaks everywhere under the skid shoes. He's like, you got to change the pitch. Make sure it's sitting a little bit more back seat, back heavy, so there's not so much down pressure on those skis, leaving those skid marks. We did that, and it helped. But you know what we compromised?
Well, yeah, your cutting edges in the wrong position.
Of course. So our laneways were hard. We were just packing them down, essentially.
You're packing snow instead of cutting snow.
So then we switched the pitch the next snow event after leaving a bunch of hard pack.
Riding on the tips of the wings.
Riding on the tips and leaving streaks everywhere.
Yeah.
So failed design on Norman's part. I don't know why they decided to do that. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't. Yeah. I'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that.
A lot of people, everybody wants to do something a little bit unique and different, right? So each company's trying to find their own.
Billadoo did it, and they didn't do a bad job. We had one Billadoo in our fleet. It was a bomb-proof blower. It was really nice.
What did he build his with? Plastic on the sides as well, or did he put steel?
It was a nylon.
He used nylon for those sides.
Like poly, like the white poly.
And what pushed it down?
It was a spring this time. It wasn't actually a leaf spring. It was like a spring.
Didn't freeze up? It worked?
It worked amazing.
Okay, so
it worked a lot better than
nothing sticks to the poly, so that was probably a good choice.
It was like quite easy to move, where the Norman's was like...
But let's see, if a Norman blower, you could have stuck a piece of pure poly on there and it might have worked better on its own, no?
Well, there's some guys who've made their own custom poly and then drilled it in.
Get rid of the rubber and put the poly on.
The thing is though, like if you want that nice cut on the driveway, you're going to put the pitch just right, and it puts so much pressure on those skid shoes. That's what I mean by it's just a bad
Where's
design.
the skid shoe you're talking about?
Like the skis, like the skid shoes. I call them skid shoes.
Who's got skis on there?
No, like underneath.
Those two sides of the blower.
The sides.
Yeah, okay.
I call them, I don't call them skis. I heard you say skis, so I said that. But skid shoes, I call them.
Skid shoes, yeah. They're kind of just there to contain the snow in the box. They have no real purpose.
But like from Pronovost,
if you're pulling snow, you don't want it to spill out. So it's a containment sort of device.
Well, we took some off, and we didn't notice that much of a difference. We took them completely off.
As long as you're running your auger, there should be no snow. The snow should be moving to the center of the blower fast enough.
When you drag with them, that's when they'd pour out the side.
Pour out, yeah.
So we did it to one of our 92 Normans. We took the skid shoes right off.
Yeah.
Okay, people were complaining, and it was in a neighborhood where all the driveways were in the front, so we didn't really feel the pain when we took them off.
Right.
We took them off another unit, and it went into driveways that you had to drive all the way to the back where the garage was.
They were leaving streaks
and
everywhere.
it was pouring out the side, and then they were doing extra swipes.
Right.
So something that was really not cost effective, but really cost us a lot of money, I should say, and time, was that my operators with the Norman blowers were constantly going back to clean windrows. Constantly.
Because you took the skis off?
No, not because they took the skis off, because sometimes they would freeze up.
Oh, yeah. Right.
So the ones that would freeze up, they would pour snow out the side. And then on top of that, the blower just didn't cut all that well. The cut on it was horrible, right? Like on the scrape on the driveway. And we get a lot of snow back home. So you would constantly cleaning. I ran the Norman all year long.
See, when we built the Cyclone, I put the pitch. Battle. I changed the angle from what was traditional Pronovost at 3 degrees to 6 degrees.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think most snowblowers tended to ride flat on the blade, so that 3 degrees was fairly kind of industry standard. If you went too crazy, the blades were apt to bend. 6 degrees wasn't bad. Mm-hmm. And again, the shorter your box is, the closer your blade is to the back of the box, it helps you in the transition. So when on a 3-point hitch, as a tractor goes into the street, you're going down the driveway on an angle, and when the tractor flattens out, it kicks up the hitch.
Absolutely.
And so what you're doing is you're riding on the back heels of your blower. That's why the lower 6 feet, usually the driveway, is not the cleanest.
Yep.
So you got to have enough angle on your blade to help compensate for that. Mm-hmm. Right? That's sort of part of the challenge you have on a
What are you
blower.
about, like on the heel, if you were to look from the back of the blower, are you about a centimeter going down like this? Or are you right flat?
I set the blowers up 90 degrees. The back of the blower is 90 degrees from the ground on a flat surface. And that's good for a Pronovost. On some of we were doing a little bit more angle on our older blowers, like the Frankensteins, just to compensate a little bit more for that lack of angle.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it makes perfect sense. You're going to get a better scrape that way. Yeah. Now, for my market, what do you recommend us doing back in Sault Ste. Marie, having so much gravel? Do you recommend us going out for our first snow event on the heels? Or what should we be doing?
If it's gravel, I mean, no operator can control his hitch control and not spread gravel. You have to lean it back. You have to lean it back. You have to pack that snow on the first pass. Passes till the ground till it freezes. And then you get a guy who's got clean stone. It never really gets packed, so you're going to be throwing gravel all over the place. I think it's best for us to probably just go out with our 90-degree angle on all our blowers. And for the first couple snow events, you can back them off the first few snow events. It's worth it. Yeah? Yeah, we even do that. But the thing is, it's gravel, and then it's asphalt, and then it's concrete, and then it's gravel, and then it's an interlock, and then it's gravel. It's all mixed in the neighborhoods. It's weird. You'll be in a really nice neighborhood. When we change our blades, like a brand new blade, we'll set it. If we're not 90 degrees, we're going to lean back just a touch. Okay. I don't mind till the pavement gets really hard. Everybody's still looking at their scratches on their driveway kind of stuff. So we lean them back a little bit. Lean them back until things get really hard frozen. Then you can, when you know you're starting to need the cut, then you bring them up to 90. And then they start scraping like a razor blade. Right. And there's no need don't change your pitch much after that. Keep it at 90 in the back. And that works for us. I'll take that and run with it. On that model of our Cyclones anyways. Yeah, I'll take that and run with it for sure. And then you worry about going back. So, like I said, I'm working on a new system to put that packer on the back of the blowers, and it'll have a it'll scrape as well and give those lines. Mm-hmm. So on this new rural route that we're picking up, we're going gravel, asphalt. You got to have a way to deal between the two. And in fact, like I was telling you, I saw the new model of the new 92-inch Pronovost Cyclone has got to have an option for a hydraulic cylinder that will allow you to tip your blower back and pull it back up to a cutting angle. Mm-hmm. That'd be brilliant. If you want to deal with gravel, asphalt, interlock a bit softer, having that cylinder on there is going to be a pretty valuable tool. Well, it's everybody's biggest struggle right now. That's where we need some innovation. If we need some innovation, it's in that aspect of the blower. We need to be able to use it on gravel driveways a little bit more effectively because Pronovost did a good job without having to add more weight to the back of your blower. They're doing it through the 3-point hitch. And when are we seeing this? I saw it on one of their models now. It was prototyped. I tried one of their blowers like that. It would be 3 winters ago. Really? So that's been around for a while. What did they change? They probably changed some of the pivot points. Like when they work a new concept, Pronovost, they'll put
Perfect
it in.
it.
They're not going to release anything until it's out for at least a couple of years.
Really? Wow.
So it's a bit slow in getting to us. I think that model should be, should be explained to the dealers who are selling. Anybody on rural routes that has to go between gravel, you almost need that, Like,
for sure.
Otherwise, I bought Southpaw's roots up here, and his customers are all freaking out because he's got gravel everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me he spent 2 or 3 guys spent like a week cleaning gravel up on everybody's lawns, and they're still pissed.
Well, I'm trying to think. Even for us, we did 2,000 laneways last year, and I would say we probably had 50 gravel cleanups, maybe a touch more.
And you can do how many in a day? Like, were they really bad? You were out with power brooms?
Like 50, like maybe it was less than 50 actually, that were bad, like really bad ones that we needed to go and clean. Yeah. It could have been actually less than that, but the customers cleaned a lot.
Right.
They're like, hey, we understand we're a gravel driveway. Like when I would go blow my own driveway, I heard this from plenty of men and women. When I would go blow my own driveway, there'd be gravel all over the place. When I was a young boy, I remember watching my dad do the driveway, and he'd still spit rocks. Yeah. And he was cautious. He did the driveway nicely because we have gravel back home too.
You could do it perfect for 29 times, and you could do it once wrong, and it's like the whole season was a disaster.
I know what frustrates me is like we'll get the pack down. I know we'll do a good job of it this first couple snow events that are coming up here in the next few months. Once the pack is good, I'm confident that we could go full force.
Until the month of March. When
what worries me is when it gets soft. And sometimes you get those soft spells right in the middle of winter, January or December. Sometimes they happen. Yeah. It snows a foot, 2 feet, and then all of a sudden everything starts melting. And then you're scraping with that nice cutting edge now that we got stainless. And what's going to happen is it's going to start shaving certain sections where the driveway might be high and low and spitting up gravel. Yeah. It's something
a couple of pieces is bad. It's when you dig. It's like when you dig. If you're going like...
You're
got problems, and the only way to really solve it is to either put a packer on the back and to lift the blower up, or change your pitch. And if you have to, nobody's going to get out and starts turning their top link. So either you have a hydraulic hitch, which is available too. You can buy a hydraulic top link, which would do the same thing for you for leaning it back.
We thought about it, but the investment is huge.
More than 500 plus hydraulics.
500 a piece, and then
plus your hydraulic lines.
Yeah, plus the lines, and you got to run them all the way to the front on the small units, because you got to remember that the small units only have 2 remotes in the back, and they're filled up with running the chute.
But you can stick even something as basic as a manual splitter valve.
Yeah, you said that.
In the good old days, we had a rod. We used to turn around and pull a rod to the good little splitter, or you can put an electric one in.
That's funny.
Yeah,
so you could do that as well.
You could if gravel's a problem, if you're dealing with, I would say, anything more than, really 10%, but can cause you a lot of problems if it's big enough gravel driveways. Mm-hmm. So we're going to work on something. We're going to build something on ours this year.
I'd love to see it.
We're going to try it out, and if it works good, then we're going to do 2 tools. One will stratify the driveway, scratch some lines in it to give traction, because that was another issue. If you're doing that hard pack, and then you go and clean it with a good sharp stainless steel, or even a poly blade, doesn't matter, whatever you go and clean it with, you can leave those long laneways like a flipping skating rink.
You do.
And if you had something behind the blower that would scratch lines into the surface, you show certainly a big distinction from your competition, and you've added a lot of safety for your custer. That's a good thing. So
that'd be great for the gravel drivers.
That's coming this year.
When you have that built and it's been effective for you, you got to send us one down. Yeah. We got to be the first ones to use one of those, because we have so much gravel back home. It's a standard. Yeah, like I said, 50% of our city is gravel.
You need something like that, and to have that ability to just to pack, to lift the blower, and then to stratify the surfaces would be just fantastic.
You're certainly right. You do leave it like a skating rink when you get to that mid-season mark, and
if it's wet snow, drives, when it gets cold again, it's dangerous.
It's foul. My mom actually broke her tailbone in the driveway one year because of that. Like, our driveway was like a skating rink, and she fell, and the
other thing too, I'm surprised that we don't see more of it coming around, is it was so much liquid deicers are popular now. It's really come up from the States, and it's coming into Canada, and we're seeing municipalities using liquids. I think a spray system on a tractor, at least that 1 in 5 kind of thing, so you can offer a service on the last pass.
To give it a quick spray, de-ice the driveway.
Some kind of.
Well, everybody wants to see the surface. Everyone. That's everybody's biggest complaint. We want to see the driveway.
So how do you integrate it in your route? So, let's say at the end of your snowfall, one tractor per area has this system, and you may only have like 50 customers that are willing to pay it, but it's an upsell. So good, take an upsell. But one tractor, before he goes home, he goes spray. One button for 8 feet, 10 feet, 2 buttons. He'll spray the whole thing with 2 boom extenders. So he only has to do, maybe 15, 20 driveways before he comes home per
We're going to see a lot more of that in the business
I think
model.
it's going to come around. That's going to come around.
Well, Sarah's introducing the ice. The salt ice remover, if you will, this year with the buckets.
It's more in a granular. It's a little
for
bit
the
branding.
walkways.
But I think that what we need to see is something that could be on a tractor that could bring in new revenues. And I think it could be something different. Like the concentration of the deicers just really didn't show enough effect. A lot of them are calling it a pre-wet, but customers don't see the value in a pre-wet.
Those old blowers I bought from Metro, the Frankensteins, they had them on there. Like this spray system on the back of the blower, and we had to take it all off, and we're like, oh my god, somebody used this for de-icing.
Yeah, but the problem was his product wasn't very good. So if you want to again test it, make sure it's working well, your customers are happy with it, and then go full force. Metro didn't really know what they were doing. They did a lot, like he didn't even understand, concentrations, like what's your concentration per 1,000 feet, So if you don't get your concentrations right, you'll never get results. If you don't get results and the customer's paying extra, then he's going to say, what the fuck, you're ripping me off.
Yeah, 100%.
So it could be something as simple like as I don't know, maybe like some kind of a pigment would be kind of neat to have a color that would show up, and even if it was a kind of a water soluble, like a kind of a darker color, your last pass, it would be perfect if the whole world was asphalt, but if you put a black dye into your de-icing product, it would actually gain the sunlight. You take the energy from the sun and melt the damn snow, as well as you could be a chemical de-icer, but it can also be a solar de-icer, and so it's better for the environment. More probably, it's a longer lasting effect because anytime you put sand out or anything that's dark will absorb the sun and help melt the snow. So as long as it's not staining, I don't have enough time in the day for playing with that, but I thought about that as a good product.
Well, it's brilliant.
A nice upsell.
We need to see that soon for sure.
Yeah.
Something on the blowers that we could use to be able to provide that service. It will do well.
Yeah, your bulk tank goes up on the nose of the tractor, so it's a counterweight for you. Instead of buying iron up front, you may as well put a spray system and earn some money. Yeah,
you could. I never thought of that. That's quite brilliant. To kind of wrap things up here and kind of get to the end of the podcast, I had a question for you. Is there anything in particular, like a big goal you might have in mind to kind of make a difference in the industry like you did with the Pronovost Cyclone? Is there anything you got up your sleeve? Maybe one last ride here before retirement, if you ever decide to retire. Is there anything big that you have planned? Is it a secret? Let us know.
No, well, some secrets. I have some ideas. I think cutting edges needs some work on cutting edges still. Like I said, those features, like you did with your gas tank. I think Cyclone's shop right now should be doing like high performance items. We can sell components that'll enhance the way all snowblowers work. I think that's a market. The snowblowing is the way to go. There's many types of blowers out there. There's no reason why we can't be selling components to turn those blowers into like a speed shop, high performance items. That's sort of something in the horizon, the near horizon. And the second would be that electric tractor is not really just a figment of my imagination, but it's something that I've been working on a little bit to put some of the concepts together, and I'm associating with some new people to hopefully try a prototype out in the next few years.
That's exciting. Yeah. I know we'll definitely see that soon. And then where do you think like the business model is heading? Do you have anything in particular where you think about like that it might get more common? Is it something we're going to see in every single town where it snows? Like, where do you think it's heading?
Well, from the way I see it, is every time somebody put a tractor in a town that was only plowed, the business grew like leaps and bounds, like these guys in Syracuse, Brockport, Rochester. One tractor turned into two turned into four turned into 8. I don't know, like Josh would be a a good example of multiplying tractors. I think he's almost doubling every year. Most of the guys that I sold one blower to are at least have 7. Guys, like in anytime there's a tractor and a snowblower working, there's somebody going out of business with a plow truck. And in all of Ottawa, there's probably 120 tractors, and I don't think 10 driveways are being cleared with plow trucks. Well, let's go high, I'd say 25. So out of 15,000 laneways all being cleared with tractors, maybe 25 are cleared by plow trucks.
Wow. That's it.
So it's a complete displacement.
Yeah.
And the model, when you say it, when I first started going down to the States selling blowers, I heard that I have a truck, why would I want to buy a tractor? My driveways are too far apart, a tractor doesn't make sense. I said, well, you're selling a service that the customers aren't really interested in. So if you're a truck typically plowing, is great in light fluffy snow at the beginning of the year. When the snow gets wet, sticky, and the banks get high, your route times drop. So your cycle time went from 4 hours to 12 hours on a wet, heavy snow. So whenever the customers needed you the most, where you earned your pay, you were at your least favorable, to the customer. So they were having to shovel or get stuck every time it was a big event. So they kept their snowblowers. When you started providing regular service with a tractor, whether it's a foot of snow or 2 inches, your variance might only be 20% in time. So if you can give a good service and you stay off the front lawns, you stay on the driveway, customers say, oh, that's what I want. I don't need my snowblower anymore. And all of a sudden, these areas where they said I only had 40 customers and I was driving all over town, all of a sudden they're cleaning 400 customers in half the space, because now they're selling a service that the customers want to buy into. So people who are in a town saying there really isn't much demand for this industry because there's only a few people hiring snow contractors to plow are missing the point. They're not selling this. That's not the service a customer wants to buy, because you do too much property damage with a plow truck.
Makes perfect sense.
And you're not there when they really need to be. So.
It's pretty well done now.
Anybody
plow trucks are done. You don't. In our market, we took out a lot of people with plow trucks. I mean, you got the odd guy who wants to make a little cash on the side. He puts a plow on his truck. He'll go do a couple of driveways for cash. That's about it. But in terms of companies with plow trucks competing against us, it's gone. And it's gone in your market too, I'm sure. There's no companies doing that.
It took about 4 years pretty much, and they just gave up. I was doing a farm show up in Syracuse, and one of my customers, I've gotten to know him pretty well, Ken. When you listen to this, you'll get a big laugh, because he had a friend of his, and he was driving me around his route, and he got into this circle at the end of a little circle of a road. He said, I do this driveway, and this driveway, and this fellow I went to school with is plowing this one over here, and I come in and I do those 4 driveways, and I'm out of there before you can get that one driveway done. Mm-hmm. And the next year I was at the same farm show, and that fellow Dirk was there, and he's like, how much for that? How much for the show model? How much would it cost me? And he kept coming back asking more questions, and he bought the model that we had at the farm show, and he's blowing snow. He had to give it up because if he stayed with the plow, he would have lost his customer. Wow. So plowing is not really.
It's done with now.
It has its place, but it's definitely not on residential snowblowing. No, in
residential, it's completely finished. But it has its place when you're doing commercial and certain parking lots. A plow makes sense. You need a plow.
A lot less maintenance.
It beats an inverted blower in some scenarios. Like for the aspect of the driveway, to be able to actually get the snow out of the way. There's some situations where I'm like, yeah, a plow truck's going to be able to do this job a lot better than we can. Sometimes it ends up happening.
On gravel, it's a flipping nightmare too.
Oh my God, I know.
You can't plow gravel.
You got mountains of gravel at the end of the season.
So those big long rural laneways you say a plow would be good on, they make a heck of a lot of mess.
Not on a rural laneway,
and you can't turn the truck around. Sometimes you go down these long laneways, you're
backing up.
How you have no room to turn with the length of your truck. Where a tractor comes in, zip, 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 he can brake lock it, swing it around, and come out, and it's done.
Yeah, you're right.
I haven't had a plow truck in probably 20 years or so. I got 80 odd tractors. We bought one used truck that had a plow on it, and I don't think we plowed one driveway with it. So I haven't plowed driveways. I get in my tractor and I'll drive across town because it's I don't know. I got tired of changing transmissions, and And when you're running snowblowers, all your lanes are cut nice and straight. There's no ramp to push the snow up on. And our driveways are pretty tight, like house to house to house. There's no room to put the snow anymore with a plow.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so those days are numbered.
I'll hit you up with my last question here, and this is going to go back to the blower, of course. The Pronovost Cyclone. Where do you see it in 5 years from now? Let's say. Do you think there's going to be any sort of big innovating done to it? Do you think you're going to be getting more involved with Pronovost? Where do you think the blower is going to head here? Because, like we talked about before, being as unbiased as possible, it is the best snowblower we have right now in the industry when it comes to inverted. And it'd be obviously cool to see some new changes. It's been pretty well the same since you've left it and had it patented.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, that cylinder on the top is a pretty good idea for the gravel driveways, I think. I think Pronovo needs to just get out there more, and we need to get hooked up to 2 tractors, show a competitor tractor pulling snow in the same driveway, and let it, anybody who's in the business for profit will buy the most productive, most durable machine. And right now people don't really understand people don't even know there's a deflector under the door. They think it's all the same.
Yeah, that's funny.
So they're not doing a very good job on selling their advantages. They're not visible enough, in my opinion. So yeah, I'd love to do a sales job. I'd like to do live demos.
They need some more videos out there. We do. We need a lot more videos.
But that running, because I come out in my snow routes, I'll come out where I'm pulling snow beside a competitor's blower, a competitor running a different blower, and I can get out to the street quicker and I can leave less snow. That's the name of the game. That's what we do.
And the driveway looks cleaner.
And the driveway's scrape cleaner, yeah.
I know it's cleaner. I know for a fact. I'm going to be definitely working this winter on taking some of these videos. I'll be in touch with you to collaborate and test these things out, because we have a bunch of Normans and now we have a bunch of Pronovost Cyclones. And I'm really going to start trying to show people the difference here in the blower, because I want to see more people purchasing Pronovost Cyclones. We talked about this before. It doesn't do anything beneficial for me, but I would just like to see more people with the better blower. Not any competitors. We don't really have any, to be honest, but not any competitors using them. However, I'd love to see just more people in the industry buying some Pronovost Cyclones.
To know the difference at least, right?
That too. Yeah, just
they all look alike, right? Yeah. From the outside, they all look pretty much the same. And I'm going, no, they're not. No, they're not the same.
Yeah. That's fun.
Yeah, it's one of the fun of not a competitor. He's at least a fellow doing snow in Ottawa here. He's running about maybe 18 or so tractors, I was told. He borrowed or was in Austin's tractor, a friend of mine from across town here, and it was the Cyclone on it. Austin's running 2 Cyclones, and he's got an old Frankenstein too when he started off. So this fellow who's running 18 tractors, all Normans, he says, I wish all my fucking blowers were Cyclone. That's tough, you get invested into a product. So I'm hoping that Pronovo or somebody creative will come up with a way to recycle these blowers, like be able to buy out somebody's whole fleets. That's kind of what I'd like to see happen. So somebody who's on to, when you start, you get 1 blower, 2 blowers, 3 blowers. When you start having 5, 10, 15 blowers of a certain mark, it's a hard commitment to say, I'm going to change over to a new model. It's really tough, and you know what it's like. You lived through it,
I'm feeling the pain right now. I mean, last year we swapped our whole fleet to all brand new Normans, thinking it was the blower of choice. I can't believe that I did that to this day. It hurts me so bad. I wish I would have just tried a couple before doing that. And it costed us a lot of money, because now we're switching back to all Pronovost.
Because everybody tells the story. I mean, everybody thinks their blowers are so great, but you need that more direct comparison side by side. And now that a lot of these contractors who are starting off with competitor brands somehow feel almost stuck with them, but it's not at all the case, because the snow removal industry is growing quickly. Very quickly. If I take a little history lesson here, by when those pull-type blowers, the P92, that everybody was happy to buy P92s when that was the only thing in town, right? And there was a good value on resale. All of a sudden, when the hybrid came in, those values dropped. Like, nobody wants to know about them anymore. You get them, sell them out to the farms, which is fine. But somebody that's not necessarily happy with the brand of hybrids that they have will have plenty of customers willing to buy those hybrids and get the damn best blower you can, because that's what's going to make you money every time you go out.
Yeah.
And they don't really break either. Those pretty tough blowers.
We need some videos.
They're heavy built.
We need some videos on this just to show the comparison. We really do. Because I've lived through it. Like everything you're explaining to me right now, I'm visualizing in my head and I'm thinking about like, oh my God, I felt the pain of having to go back and take 3-4 more scrapes on the driveway just because it wouldn't do the same job. Or I'm out on the road playing with this big pile of snow and kind of spreading it across the road like a pig because the damn blower won't pick it up. And these are like, I don't know, people that aren't in the business don't kind of understand, but these are big flaws, huge flaws that cost a lot of time and money. Now you compound that over 10, 20, 30, 40 units, all doing that at every driveway. They could have all each had 25, 50 more driveways on their route done easy if they're playing around with the snow
when we
like that.
Built those Frankensteins, actually made me think of having to do those extra passes, because we came out with the Frankensteins and I was effing around still. I was always feeling bad about scratching driveways. So I kind of, I said, we're building this new blower. I'm going to change my cutting angle. I'm going to put on the nylon blade so I don't have to scratch anybody's driveways. All my drivers get this piece. By Christmas time, all those nylon blades were cut off. We put our stainless back on, and that was the year we did the Frankenstein. So we grew from, 34 to almost to 4,800 homes. So we grew 1,600 homes in one season.
As soon as you put the stainless.
Well, we grew when we went for the Frankensteins, and our slogan was closer to the garage door, no snow, no mess in the street. In all of the back of the blowers, we had a vinyl sticker on the back.
I seen that, and that was was this 2014?
That would be 7 years ago, I guess. Whatever that is,
2016.
8 years ago maybe.
2016.
So when we built that new blower, we talked about, hey, we're getting closer to your door. We're not leaving a mess in your street. And because in Ottawa, it's only at the time, there might have been 35-40% of the homes being cleared, depending on the neighborhood. That mess in the street was disrespectful to the neighbors. So the customers that hired the pigs, they didn't want to shovel their driveway, but they felt bad knowing that when the plow goes by, that snow in the street's going into their neighbor's driveway. So when we addressed that problem, we had a big uptake. There was a recognized problem. No snow in the street, close to the garage door was important. But those stainless steel blades, man, that they ever cut. Yeah. And our competitor was having to do that extra pass. Yeah. Because because we say it was black and white. Our driveways were black, theirs were white. and they were trying to get black. Galore. Oh my God, hard pack. It's starting to build up with every pass with those nylon blades. So we said, okay, we get... Well, at the time, we were still cleaning over 6,000 laneways. Maybe I had 5 issues, 2 of them that were pissed that we couldn't really resolve. But we put it clear in our contract that, you hire us to remove hard packed snow and ice. We're here to make it a safe driveway, yet you don't want us to scratch us. And as I'm walking up to the front door of their house, I always look for scratches from their shovel. I said, look, if you're scratching your walkway with a shovel, what do you expect us to do with a tractor and
10,000 pound machine with a snowblower?
I said, we're here to provide you a clean driveway, safe. So I get 150 new customers from my competitor for doing a better job, and I get maybe 2 customers pissed because they couldn't understand that safety's first, and we're here to clean their driveways, get the hard packed snow and ice off. And the only way to do it is with a steel blade.
That's what everybody wants. It was a big complaint of ours.
You can't have it both ways.
No, you can't have it both ways. You're not going to get your driveway down to the surface and not have a little bit of compromise there. There could be the odd little scratch. That's just what's going to happen.
So the ability to tilt your blower is interesting. So that's probably a neat innovation that shows more than just support point for gravel. On this year, we're going to have these indicating markers. So it's an insert that slides into the pickets saying Unistone, wall, whatever, any kind of notes, don't put snow here. So we're going to really show details on the pickets of what requirements the customers have. So if a guy had the ability to tip his blower back a bit, there's only a light snow, there's no need to put it in scrape mode. You could go softer on the interlock. And there's
be a little bit more less aggressive on it.
Yeah, you could play with that a little bit if you had a driver and you had without turning it into a big job. He pulls up to driveway, he sees his pickets, it's interlock. He knows it's a light snow. Why pound it? With an extra scrape, lighten it up.
Yeah,
push the button, the way it goes, and next one when it's built up, you put it to aggressive scrape and you scrape the shit out of it. Right?
That'd be the way to do it.
It's a pretty good option because what it was is black and white. If your driveways are black and your competitors are white, it's a good chance the customer's coming to you.
I'm like so excited to go into our market now with stainless steel cutting edges, because the biggest complaint we experienced from last year was the scrape quality. That was it. That was like our biggest complaint. Besides that, we knocked pretty well everything out of the park. We could have been a little bit faster. That's always a complaint to every customer. They want instant service.
Yeah.
However, the biggest complaint was the scrape quality, and now our customers are going to see a world of a difference.
We'll scratch a few driveways.
Yeah, of course. But we were leaving black marks with rubber too.
There's no damage to the driveway. It's superficial.
Yeah.
Interlock is a bit touchier. I don't really like it on interlock.
Yeah, I know it is for sure. Stamped concrete's the same way. We had the Hevia edges on. That's what we rocked this past winter. And you wouldn't believe the black streaks they left on driveways.
The rubberized.
I would have rather stainless steel scratches, because at least you could seal them up a bit and kind of hide those scratches, and they look fine. These black marks, like my guys were on their hands and knees
the rubber,
scratching it off, and nothing would take it off. We tried a bunch of different highly chemical products to make sure that we could get it off, and it was hell. It was hell. So we took all the Hevias off right away. In the spring, we had to fix, I think, like 12 driveways out of 2,000.
So having to deal with complaints is the nature of the business. If you can explain to the customer that you've tried everything, the best choice is stainless steel. And like I remind myself, if I'm signing 150 new customers and I'm losing two complainers, why would I not become a stainless steel?
I love when you say
rationalize it and make sense of it, because you're going to have somebody pissed off at you no matter what you do.
As soon as you told me that, I instantly bought all stainless steel edges.
And that's why our business grew so much. We didn't try to coddle it, like say, we're going to put nylon here and it's the best thing. It's not. It scrapes like shit.
It scrapes like shit.
Yeah.
Nylon scrapes like shit, and so does rubber. And I mean, the only two that you're gonna
scratching is superficial. It's like if I'm only getting 2 complaints from 7,000 laneways, like I never been sued. I never rebuilt anybody's driveway. So
and you've been running stainless for a while.
Yeah,
a long time.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
My drivers won't want it. They just think it's crazy. What do you got this shit on my blower for?
I'm beyond excited. All Pronovost Cyclones in the fleet now, all stainless steel cutting edges. Like, we're going to see a world of a difference for our business. Because last year, Jim, I couldn't explain to you the pain of how many extra swipes we took on those driveways, how much.
And when it got the thaw period, you were getting guys stuck in their driveways, probably in your hard pack was getting up to 3-4 inches probably, right? When
and they were leaving ruts.
And then it all freezes into these wicked ruts, eh?
It was ugly as hell. This winter was tough for us. I tried to blame the snow conditions, but it was a mix of heavy, wet, thick snow, and then also a mix of, it wasn't a mix, it was just having the wrong blowers.
Not scraping well enough.
They don't do the job. Wrong cutting edges and the wrong blowers.
Before that snow freezes, you got to get it off as best you can.
I was calling people up in Stratford, from Nick's operation out there for Nick Snow, and they weren't experiencing these same issues as I was, and they're running all Normans there. And I'm like...
And they're running nylon too?
Hevia, rubber edges like I was. They're running the same setup.
How come they're not leaving rubber marks?
I don't know if who I was talking to was possibly the wrong person, and they were just telling me what I wanted to hear, which was the opposite. But honestly, there is no way they weren't leaving black marks, and there is no way in hell they weren't leaving hard pack, because...
But they may get more warm days to melt the hard pack.
Possibly. Our dumps are double what they get.
When it freezes, when the hard pack turns from white snow to solid clear ice, it's going to be almost impossible to get rid of.
Yeah.
Right? Almost impossible to get rid of.
That stainless steel will cut it down a bit, though.
Oh, yeah. It cuts it well. First of all, it gets it to the clean as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you do your job and you get there at the right time, I mean, it's not the ice storm from, all those years ago. It's the best bet.
That's exciting.
You have to go for the max average, right? What do most people want? They want a clean driveway they're not going to slip and fall on.
Yeah.
And how are you going to do that?
We're executing
Use the
now.
best blade.
We're executing now. We figured that out. Well, Jim, really appreciate your time, man. It's a pleasure to be in Ottawa. It was a pleasure checking out the fleet and learning lots about the business model. It was also a pleasure learning about all the trilogy and how you built basically the hybrid of our, like, the future hybrid blower that has been nothing but beneficial to anyone who's used it. That's for damn sure.
It's a game changer for the operators, and And it's really cool to see people like yourself starting in a town that's never seen it and
blowing it up.
First one in wins. Hey, by the way,
first one in wins. If you're the first person
it's so hard
in your
to
market,
they'll never catch up to you.
No, you'll never catch up, and especially when you got that service down pat, it's game over.
Yeah.
It'll take a company a lot of years of not profiting to be able to actually test you. That's not going to happen. Once you got control of the market and you're the only snow company, that's it. You'll go as long as you can, right?
Yeah, like the guys I see in the States right now, they're doubling every year just about. And this is areas, when I first went down there, the dealers said there's no market for these types of snowblowers. We don't have that clientele. And I said, it's not really the issue. I said, it's not that you don't have the clientele. You're not selling the service the clients want. And it's the funniest thing, because even the dealerships, particularly in the States, because I'm from Montreal, where it's been established, like we've been running tractors for over 40 years pretty much. And but in the States, when I would go to a dealership, whether it be a Kubota or I sold everybody, basically, John Deere, they told me that they had no clientele base for it. And I said, hang on a minute here. When I'm saying buy the Cyclone blower, buy Pronovost products, I'm not trying to sell you a snowblower, but you're going to sell a tractor and a snowblower. And I said, you're going to sell more tractors to commercial operators than you are in agriculture. And in the Brockport store, which is a Kubota dealer, Daryl said after 2 years, he said, I sold more tractors to contractors than I do in my ag side. And that's not changed every year since. So a little mom and pop farm store is actually close enough to a town that's not selling big agricultural equipment anymore. It might be selling lawnmowers, could be selling a pile of compact tractors and some pretty high-end snowblowers.
Wow.
So it's a nice opportunity for people in the agricultural business.
Certainly.
To expand towards commercial operators, and for any commercial operator running plow trucks thinking that there is no market here, that's not the case. You're not selling a service with a plow truck that the customers want to buy.
Wow.
Change your delivery, and you're going to see people, like I think, what's Josh, like 7 years ago, bought his first blower. He's got to be 18 tractors at least.
Really?
It's pretty quick for my opinion.
Ours was quick too. I mean, no, all bragging aside, I mean, we went from 1 unit, 30 driveways. Next year, 3 units, 175. Next year, 7 units, 500. And then last year, from 500 to 22 tractors, 2,000 driveways.
So why is that?
Why is that?
Why is that?
Well, I mean, marketing, advertising was a big, huge funnel for us. And then, of course, being the only people in the industry.
Customers didn't get lazier. The people didn't get lazier, did they? They just They thought that you're selling a pretty reliable service at a fair price? I
think that it was that, and it was also the marketing and advertising, how we exposed the service to everyone, absolutely blew up. The pickets really changed everything.
Pickets are good.
And like I said, we spent a crazy amount of money on advertising marketing. We got the word out so hard that we were able to go from 500 to 2,000 and 4x in 1 year. It was crazy. It was overwhelming.
It's about 20 years now we've been in Ottawa. And when we first got here, we were banging on doors. There's only plow trucks here. Not even 5% of the homes were being cleared. And I came from Montreal where 90% are being cleared. It's like, what is this? I thought I was looking in a crystal ball going like, how come nobody hires contractors here? And I said, okay, a couple of plow trucks, that's it. So we started banging on doors. We got this tractor snowblower system, and they're kind of like looking, oh, I can shovel my own. I got my snowblower. We don't need your service. And then we would sign one here and one there. I think the first year we may have put 3 tractors up, and I don't know, 450 total, and we bought JP out, so we may have had about 300 homes our first year. Anyways, banging on doors, one here, one here, one here, one here, and then it was when we bang on doors the following year, it's like, I saw you were cleaning John's driveway next door, and John's a smart guy. He's not like a lazy pig who can't shovel his own driveway. He's a smart guy, so we're feeling a little more comfortable to say, hey, why don't you do my driveway too? So then that 1 and 2 started to become pockets of 3 and 5, and then you started to really see a growth. So even though it's 20 years, we're only still up around 50% of the market.
Yeah. Some
areas there it's a little bit better yet, but you saw the amount of construction in this part of town.
The developing's wild. You're on a gold mine here.
And only half of the people are really buying the service too. So the potentials is to fill in deeper.
Yeah.
And of course, there's so much expansion, and Yeah, it's a pretty cool business.
The sign-ups are not going to stop here for you. They'll keep coming.
Nice repeat business, eh?
It's a reoccurring service. Reoccurring service. Yeah. I really believe in it. I'm super excited to keep expanding this business. Yeah, it's awesome. I have a ton of fun doing it. I've really gained a big passion into blowing snow, as weird as it sounds, but it's more to that, right? From the software to the tractors to blowing the snow to the customer service to the rush to putting the carriage in front of the horse because you don't know what to expect. And there's just so many unbearing feelings you get inside your stomach, and it makes it a really exciting business. But I'll tell you one thing. I do believe that unless you're really calm like yourself and collected, it is a young man's game. Some older people I feel like would have a really tough time.
Right? If you are rigid and think everything's going to go as you plan, well,
it's not like that.
That's a tough life. Rigid people break.
Big time.
Flexible people will bend and plan A, plan B, plan C, and don't think twice about it.
Mm-hmm. I plan as much as I can, and I'm sure you do the same, but sometimes it always kind of goes against you, and you don't know until the snow comes. It's okay. It's normal. It's a learning curve.
It's normal. Yeah. So you have plan A, plan B, plan C, and you work your way through it.
That's it.
And we found now that we've got spare equipment, and we always bring spare drivers in. So that's the big change for our model now. Is before, we could only afford to put every tractor had to work. Now some of those old tractors are bought and paid for. We use them as training tractors. So we can take a guy that really doesn't know much about snow. I'll train him on dry land, put him in a tractor, and he gets to break ice.
Yeah.
He's starting to build his confidence. He doesn't
Playing
have
around
any pressure.
A bit with it.
And we throw him in different routes, So, let's turn up the service here on this snowfall.
Yeah.
Let's turn it up there. So it keeps your competition off balance a little bit, because our competition's pretty clever. They figured out the way we worked quite quickly.
Yeah.
And throwing that extra man here and there and juggling it around, they didn't know we weren't so predictable.
And you would make it different every snowstorm.
You put an extra tractor on a route, you smoke your competitor.
Smoke them.
And if it's a big storm, their customers are watching too.
The thing is you're not really able to do that though until you get to being a bigger, more established business.
The tractors, you can't have that expense. The tractor's got to get bought and paid for. And then that's my training grounds for my next new set of drivers. Right, so next year I can bring this guy that only may have went out 5-10 times. He can take on a full route. I know how he works. He knows my area. He knows the tractors. So that's a neat part of your business model. The business model needs to be recruiting, training, and keeping your guys fresh, and motivated.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to really simplify things too as well. Yeah. As much as possible. Yeah. Make them simple so nobody's overwhelmed, and obviously cut down road times. Like being out there for 14 hours is tough sometimes for all the operators. They get really stressed out. So hopefully cutting things down to, maybe being out there for 10 to 12 hours is acceptable.
When you go out is important, your timing. Yeah. Communicate that to your customers so the expectations are in line.
Yeah. Yeah. Communication's everything in the business.
The idea of going out at 2 a.m. in a blizzard to think you're going to have all your driveways open by 7 or your first pass done by 7 makes no sense if they're going to be blown in an hour and a half. You may as well just leave the men in bed, rest them up, because you're going to be out for a long day. Right? Yeah. So you have to be able to have the confidence to say, bad call, but you need to explain that to your customers so they can understand, but if they don't even see the work that you've done, then why are you going to burn fuel and burn your men?
Yeah.
So that's something we've learned a lot over time.
Of course.
The men is your most valuable asset, and take good care of them.
You're not doing no driveways without the men.
No.
Yeah. But anyways, we're a little bit past the time for sure, but it's been a great podcast. This is a piece of history that'll definitely live on, Jim, I promise. And this was great to do it. So if you want to check out Jim and his business, Capital Service here in Ottawa, you can check him out on his website, right? Going to capitalservices.ca or .com? .ca. And then you're also on Instagram. Sarah's doing an amazing job of really blowing that up. So you could check a lot about who they are and what they do, of course, on Instagram. YouTube, there's some great videos when you were talking about when the cyclone was officially done and completed. There's a video on Capital Services on YouTube of the blower cleaning I don't know how many homes, but it's about a 10-minute video, and it's a super educational, nice video to watch, and it's mind-blowing to see that now and being here with you is just crazy. Yeah, I watched that video, me and my partner.
The Pronovost one, we had Dexter's tractors working in Montreal, nice drone vision.
I don't know which one it's called. I forget what it's called, and I'm ashamed that I don't know what it's called. But it's when you had the slogan on the back of the blower, when it was basically like, I don't know if it was close to being patent or when it was officially done. And it's about a 10-minute video with all these pop-ups of these captions explaining what the blower does and how much more effective and efficient it's been for the model.
Showed you the drive shaft and the bearings, and we oversized all the bearings when we built it. We called all the bearings are the same size. So we did a pile of little innovations to make them durable, easy to maintain. Yeah, that was kind of fun.
That video I watched about 10 times. But you could...
Corey was one of our ace drivers, and I think he went on this one street and he did 4 driveways in like a minute and a half or something like that. And it's like he was like a dance, doop, 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 and with the wings. He knows how to run the wings, that man.
The blower certainly changed the industry. But go on social media, check out Capital Services. You'll be able to see Jim's empire that he's built over the last several years here in Ottawa. And I got to say, it was a pleasure.
But it's nice too. I see what Sarah's done on it.
Sarah too. Yeah, we can.
To people who don't know what we're talking about, my daughter's taken over the business. I guess it was last year, really in full force, and just the new touch with the customers, the communication levels, the implementation of better systems.
I certainly don't want to leave Sarah out for sure, because the last 3 years she's done an exceptional job improving the service, communication with the customers, as well as leveraging technology, right, to be able to really provide that exponential service within your industry. And you're on your way to killing competition with her in the driver's seat. I promise.
Yeah, she's a weapon.
Yeah, she's a weapon. Yeah, so kudos to her.
Customers were saying that. So I realized how valuable this was. I said, I do it my way. As long as the driveways are cleaned well, I have good equipment, good drivers. That was my focus. But her focus is more from the office out. And it's all about what the customer's experience. And I was at a customer's house and they said, best service we've ever had with Capital Services. And I kind of took a little personal, wasn't any different than when I was doing it, but it was the best experience that they've ever had with Capital. And it was based on Sarah and Dimitri's inputs to the way Capital's run today. And
I got a lot of confidence in Sarah. I'm excited to, have a relationship with her now, and she's going to shake this industry.
I know. Nice. Second generation. How about that?
Honestly, I admire it so much. You have no idea. I'm sure you really feel proud as a father, though. Let's be real. Come on.
Yeah. You pay the price when you run your own business. So to think that your family can, take some of that and benefit from it, that's great.
Of course.
And improve upon it. So she's got a good place to start.
Yeah.
And she's definitely put her touch on it immediately. So time for me to find something else to do.
Yeah, I know. She'll do a good job. She'll take good care of it. We're going to keep in touch. She's always got great things to share, and we got some good stuff to always talk about. Yeah. Sarah's a good person. Like I said again, thanks so much, Jim. It's a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Awesome. That's it. Left hand shake. Wow, that was good.